So, Rajamma, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you, Amanda.
Well, thank you for joining me. I want to first start this interview off by understanding about your background in HR, human resources. How did you get interested in human resources?
I fell into it by accident. So let me tell you my story. I am a student of mathematics and I've done my graduate studies in operational research, kind of applied mathematics. The next thing, best thing if you do mathematics is kind of getting into development or computer science and things like that. So I became a developer at Monsanto. And I became a developer in the HR technology area, and that became quite an happenstance because then it led me to the beautiful area of human resources, basically to be able to work with people and understand the problems of being an employee and the experiences and everything else. And then suddenly I said, you know what, I like being a developer. It's instant gratification when you finish your code, but it's even more gratifying when you're able to kind of balance between technology and HR. So I became a product owner or a product leader in HR technology. So now I'm kind of balancing both understanding how human resources work, how what employees' needs are, and what the technology advancements are, and make sure that both of them meet in the right way.
I feel like that's such a common story, right? How did you get to here? How did you get interested in this area? I just sort of fell into it, or it just came, as an opportunity. That's such a common theme I hear when I talk to, people with amazing careers. Would you tell us a little bit about your current role as the senior director of HR technology at Microsoft?
Yeah, I'm leading a team of product owners within what we call as employee experience organization within Microsoft Digital. So our internal technology arm is called Microsoft Digital, and obviously we place a lot of emphasis on employee experience. So
Hmm.
the whole organization is called employee experience rather than called HR technology or anything else. Here, we actually within that organization we basically address the physical and digital experiences across Microsoft for any employee that is going to interact with Microsoft. So whether the desk that you're sitting, whether getting into the office or shuttles and the cafeterias, those are the physical, and then the digital are all the experiences whether it is human resources or legal or otherwise. And so it's kind of that organization under which I belong. I know it's a little bit of a long winded answer, but you need to see the context. And then in my product, I own the products or my team owns the products that we serve up for our employees that are related to all of onboarding to offboarding and yeah, all of these experiences and any experiences that we use for our support personnel in turn that are serving up our employees and so on. So that is the area of my realm here in Microsoft.
Yeah, that's great. When you think about Microsoft, it's such a big company, and you're managing the HR, right, from hire to leave. Just out of curiosity, how do you keep that individual user experience in the forefront as you're implementing these big rollouts?
Yeah, it's very common in big companies where you have massive HR organizations, massive technology organizations to forget the person that we are serving, that is the employee. And so in at Microsoft, we are very much conscious of that failure that we can get into, that gap we may fall into. So for over the last few years, we have made sure that whatever we do, employees at the forefront, the silos of our organization, whether it is, we have, even within HR, you have the centers of excellence of, talent and learning and, recruitment and so on. We don't want employees to feel those silos. So we are
Mhm.
creating a singular experience. We are trying, we are not perfect yet, trying to create a singular experience for employees or managers for whatever hat they wear or wherever they are, in terms of wherever they are in the world or wherever they are in their career or whatever they're doing in their lives. So whether they are a new parent or they're getting married or they're adopting a child or whether they are becoming a new manager or just coming into Microsoft and getting onboarded and ramped, or whether a new college hire or have great deal of experience at Microsoft and so on. So we are conscious of who you are, where you are, and how you are in order to kind of serve up the experience. And that is how And all of this is based on data. So we don't like go and ask everybody, well, we know about you because you are applying for your parental leave. We know about you because you're asking, searching for, adoption or tuition and stuff like that. And we know that because we hired you from a college just a year ago. So all of this information is used to kind of relay that back into the experiences that we want to show up. It's very important because yeah, at any given company, what we forget is all of these physical and digital experiences are what you call as the culture. Culture is not
Mhm.
something that you separately write down and everybody's like, oh, this is culture, this is, but it is this amalgamation of all of this beautiful experiences that you have, and then you can walk out and say, you know what, Microsoft has got a great culture or not. It depends on how you feel about it, but that's how we see it. So we use data very much to drive the experiences for the
Yeah,
employee.
absolutely. Just a little bit about me. I've worked in internal communications, like corporate internal communications for many years. So I've always worked very closely with like HR, employee experience, IT. So it's a real treat for me today to get your perspective on a lot of the questions that I have for you. Because you'd mentioned working in silos, and then really there's the HR, employee experience, internal communications, IT help build that culture through multiple ways. So I'm really excited and a little bit to ask some questions about related to those. But I want to start with a segment we're calling Story Time.
Welcome to Story Time. Story Time.
Let me tell you a story.
You have, well over 2 decades of experience at Fortune 100 companies, specifically creating multi-year digital HR roadmaps at both Microsoft and Pfizer. Looking back, can you share some of the similarities and differences between the rollouts of those roadmaps at the various companies you've worked at?
Yeah. At the end of the day, let me talk about the similarities.
Okay.
Human needs are the same, regardless of whether you're in a company that is, manufacturing pharmaceuticals, like I was in Pfizer or in
Mhm.
Monsanto, or you are actually working in a company that is serving up technology for digital transformations of the various enterprises. At the end of the day, there is a human being that is coming to work every day and asking for, I need to focus on my work, so help me focus on my work. If I'm a manager, help me manage my team better, help me grow in my career, help me learn new skills, help me when I need you, for when my family needs me, and stuff like that. So those basic needs of an individual coming to work and earning a living doesn't change just because you work in a different company. So from that perspective, it's very common. I mean, I have worked in now three different Fortune 100 companies or 500 companies, and those are very common. More, a little bit to add on that is it doesn't matter which country you are in, the same needs occur. There might be different situations that occur in different countries, different economic situations, different geographic situations, and other, sometimes even climate related situations that occur. But at the end of the day, it is the needs are the same. When it comes to working in a technology company versus a non-technology company, is that yeah, at Pfizer, I was technology, so everyone else was either manufacturing drugs or selling it. And so when I said something, it was easier for me to convince other people that this is the right thing to do. Here, everybody is a technologist, so everyone has an opinion about what technology to use. How do you implement it? So when we roll out something at Microsoft, we get a lot more feedback. So it keeps us on our toes always. We can't just kind of be complacent about what we are doing. We are constantly getting feedback about what we are doing, how we are doing, and why we are doing. And because our employees are serving the same thing to the other customers and other enterprises in the world. So we have to be the best, even if we are not like going for that goal, we have to, because the demands are placed on us because of that.
Yeah. I want to just point out something you said that really has just struck me that I haven't really thought about until this exact moment. You said we're addressing the human needs. And I think that's so much different than addressing employee needs. It's broader, right? Employee needs is how do I sign up for benefits? Human needs are I want to adopt a child or I'm having a child. I think that's super important. If our listeners take one thing away about how to improve the employee experience, think about the human experience. That's super critical. So thank you for really bringing that out. Um, anyway, that's just something that really stuck out to me. I want to switch gears a little bit here. I read that you advised and mentor startups innovating in HR technologies. If you're able to talk about them, who are these companies and what excites you the most about the future of HR technology?
I am, like I said, I love to work in the crossroads of technology and HR. I mean, imagine this is just like, I love the fact that technology, when it serves when it's used for the right purposes and enables certain things, and you can see the instant reaction. In a way, I'm an employee that's going to use my products, so I'm able to kind of. It's again a kind of an instant gratification. The circle comes full very quickly for us. So, when it comes to that's why the advancements in technology in terms of the artificial intelligence and using data to kind of inform you, to predict, to be able to target experiences, to be able to even before the employee is thinking about it, to be able to have suggestions. You talked about human experiences. We call it moments that matter for an employee. So how do you identify those moments that matter even before the employee does, the way we do it? How do you create great teams using technology? How do you coach employees? How do you upskill them? How do you keep them engaged? How do you make sure that they're energized to come to work the next day? How do you create? How do you enable your culture to be propagated through technology? And so all of this is comes with the advancements in technology. And then always the technology is a great place to connect people, whether it's the social platforms or I mentor companies that are working in the area of women who have gone off work and coming back to work. And how do you enable a platform for them to find work? Women who are 55 and years older, who are coming wanting to kind of stay in work, and how do you find jobs for them? People who are disabled from lesser fortunate communities and stuff like that. And how do you find solutions for them? How do you reduce the time that it takes to get anything done? So all of this is all of these are companies that I kind of work and support in terms of understanding what they do and how do I mentor in areas, because I come from 23 years of working in this space, and how do I kind of take that knowledge and translate into what the companies are doing, and how can I make them even better in my own little ways. Basically, that's why I mentor in these areas.
Yeah, and I'm going to have some more questions, very more detailed, specific questions about that. But I want to move into the next segment. We're calling it Getting Tactical.
I'm trying to figure out tactics.
One topic that I face in internal communications and have for years is the topic of tech governance and collaboration, right? Specifically when technology intersects across different departments and stakeholders. So like HR employee experience, IT, internal corporate communications. Um, in today's new world of we're all pretty much working remote, or a large majority of people during the pandemic, these technologies used to be, helping people do their job. And now it's more core to how we are working and learning and working together. Think of like Teams, Slack, right? It used to be you would get on there, you could chat with someone. Now it's how we meet each other in the new employee experience. There will continue to be these strong collaborative relationships between HR, employee experience, IT, and communications. But there's almost these visible lines in the sand when it comes to governance. Can you talk a little about how you see the role of different stakeholders, employee experience, internal communication, and IT when we talk about governance of these technologies that are designed to improve the employee experience?
Absolutely. For me, the everything begins at data. Life begins at data when it comes to employee experiences. We really need to, and it comes from listening. And the listening, the ears that we put on the ground through whether it is HR or through our communications, the daily pulses, the polls that we have for our employees that tell us that they need certain things, that tell us that for example, it's getting very tiresome to work during the pandemic with children. What are you company doing to kind of keep me productive, keep me engaged, keep me employed while I give you back? What can you give me something to kind of work through that? So those are all listening devices we put on the ground in various ways between the internal communications and HR. So and even in IT, so a research arm which basically kind of consumes the information from the employees, and then think of, so if you have that, and then HR is responding with the definite program. So then HR, for example, at Microsoft, we said, oh, getting hard for you to take care of your children. Here you go, 3 months of pandemic childcare leave for you, paid from Microsoft. So employees who have children could take that and avail that. And so in some cases, both parents were working for Microsoft for 6 months. They were able to take care of their children over the year while they were getting paid by Microsoft. So the implementation of the programs comes from the HR arm. So they're listening, and the programs are kind of getting designed. So that now that the programs need to be kind of enabled, so that people who are going to have to take those leaves need a place to kind of apply and maintain and all of that stuff. So how do you manage that? That's all through the technology. So at the end of the day, the three of them have to work very closely together to make sure that we don't kind of fall off of, oh, I'm telling you to do something kind of. It always needs to come from the information that we are gathering on a daily basis from, or on a whatever the frequency basis, from our employees, and also from the industry. So if our employees are seeing that other companies are doing certain things, if I'll just go, if Google is giving that kind of a pandemic leave or something like that, they're going to move. So talent is of essence. So you've got to make sure that people are listening in, people are clued in, and then how do you take those programs and apply that? And again, as I said before, it all comes from the data or the information that we gather inside and outside.
Yeah, and what role do you think the leadership at the company level, the C-suite level, plays in this as well?
They they can help by ensuring that the three arms are working well together, and more importantly, they can help prioritize. So it becomes very natural for people to think that one is more important than the other, but people sitting at that level are more clued into what else about the company. So not everything that rises up can be immediately acted on. So you have to kind of balance it with the economic realities of the company, or economic realities of the place where you're situated, or the geographic or the political or whatever realities of the situation is. And then you kind of react to those situations based on those. So they have that know-how, and they should kind of bring in their leadership in terms of prioritizing for whatever you bring up.
Okay. You'd mentioned the three arms working together. What advice would you give someone if those three arms aren't working together?
I would almost step back and ask yourselves the question: what outcomes that you are you looking for? Instead of worrying about, I said that HR, so you do it, IT, or I know better, because so I'm going to do it, or internal communication saying something totally different from
Mm.
other two. I think the best way to do it is to come together and kind of figure out what our vision is. What is our outcome? What is the desired outcome together? Is it about you, me, and the other, or is it about the employee? If you're going to put employee at the center of this equation, then put together an employee experience vision. Write down what you want to do. What are the pillars that you want to go? What are the principles? What are the guardrails that you want to be controlled under? And then what is it that is going to dictate how do you navigate this journey? Basically, like I said, use the data, use the information that your employees are giving. Your employees are the best to tell you what to do. And then use your leaders to kind of help prioritize what you need to do. So in a way, start with your outcomes, what business values you want to drive, and together you will be able to come to a common place. We have the same struggle, but we have made it over the last few years. We have made it so that it is the data that is driving our decisions, not just how each of us feel about what. Because employee experience could be very opinionated. I mean, we all have opinions about anything that we see, right? If we look at an artwork, I like it, you don't like it, and so on. So employee experience is similar, especially when as you roll it out within the company. But when a majority of our employees are saying yay or nay about something, then you kind of get the idea and you
Mhm.
get the news. So you basically react to that.
Yeah. You mentioned a lot about data. Data is really driving so much. But outside of data, what resources or what are you doing to help stay ahead of other big companies, the Googles and the world, to really help understand the trends and in the industry and technology that'll help you better facilitate a better employee experience in this virtual environment?
Um, I mean, luckily, I work for a company that not only creates digital experiences for our own employees, we create it for the enterprise outside of our company as well. So we have tons of information that we gather. We do research. We understand about um, everything and associated with people working in the future of work. How are people working? What's going to happen in hybrid? How are we thinking about, like, making sure that people still feel engaged, are in a community, are working in teams, are contributing and are feeling good about contributing and are still wanting to work for your company. So all of this information we gather through our research. We have a lot of research done at Microsoft, and we use that. And I'm sorry, but I have to go back to that data because that research uses that data. And we use that. Like, for example, you've heard about the Great Reshuffle. Uh,
Yeah.
our research shows that over 30,000, I mean, we did a research with about 30,000 people in 31 countries. And it shows that 41% of the employees are considering an employer change this year. I mean, that's huge. And 46% could move if they are allowed to work remotely. It's like almost 50% of your employee population is ready to kind of migrate. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
that is
huge.
huge. So that kind of gives us an idea of, what do you need to do about your talent, and what do you place. Other things that I do is that I participate in a lot of forums outside of Microsoft, to in forums that specifically to use these forums are about HR technology. What are the trends? And I also speak to other tech companies in this area, and people who are in my job in other tech companies, to kind of understand how they are dealing with some of these pain points as well.
Absolutely. Well, if in a perfect world, if you had all the data you wanted, all the information you needed, what is one tech change you would make that would absolutely instantly improve the employee experience?
I would make everything everything come to the employee rather than employee going to something. So that is, I would say, and that is exactly what we call as the working in the flow of work. I mean, getting productive during the flow of work. So you're working in your Outlook, you're working in your Teams, you're working in your Slack or whatever. How about all of your experiences just show up in those places where you're working, so that you're not like, oh, today I have to do this, so I have to find that portal, and this is the URL for that portal, or I'm storing it somewhere or anything like that. Instead, it just comes to me and I'm able to just kind of do that work. That would be my dream employee experience for the future.
I feel like you that's one actually that I've always thought that if your experience was so personalized and right there and immediate, that was the one I've been thinking about as I've been building these questions. As an employee, that would make my life so much easier. I don't have to go find the link to Workday or to it's all right here for me. That's so I'm really glad to hear that. And I'm glad to
Right.
hear that maybe one day you'll be working on that.
We actually have started at Microsoft. So if you have heard about the product called Viva,
Okay.
it is going to be it's a platform for experiences within Teams. So it's a product, but we are going to adopt it in Microsoft. Obviously, we are the customer zero for that.
Well, I'm really excited to hear that. That's awesome. And that's so cool that y'all are working on that. I will definitely be keeping an eye on that. Um, one more question I want to ask here. Sort of about this employee experience, this virtual employee experience. What is the one issue that comes to your mind of working remote or virtual that isn't getting enough attention?
Let me just start with the positive. It has democratized the team, right? In a way, everybody is in the same situation. Everybody's working out of their bedrooms or their closets or wherever. They
The
can, they,
basements.
yeah,
Yeah.
they can find quieter space. So that has kind of equalized. I think what this has done is that it has, totally taken away the line between home and work. It has taken away those margins. It has taken away the commutes. It has taken away, which becomes like there is no division between my home and my work. In some ways, it is saving some time. In some other ways, there is no time that you have to stop working.
Yeah.
Some companies are making specific things to kind of call that a day, or shut it down, or have a head have kind of a mindset to do that, or have a commute something, so that you can get away from work. But this is actually not very healthy, that we are always at the beck and call of the work, and that it's like 3 steps away from your bed,
Yeah.
literally. And that is not going to be a great place to be. And I think we, as we think about the hybrid workspace of the future, we really need to start thinking about how do you make that a reality for each individual that is working.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I definitely feel that. Everything you just said. It's nice that I can run downstairs and throw a load of laundry in the washer, but I'll be sitting here until 8 p.m. while my dinner's getting cold. So yeah, I agree with that as from my own experience as well. I'm going to move on to the next segment, ripped from the headlines.
You hear the news?
Extra, extra, read all about it.
I would
Our
be
stories
remiss
ripped
if
from
I
the
didn't
headlines.
ask a question about Pfizer to you since you worked there. Hypothetically, if you were back at Pfizer as the director of HR business technology and we rewound to the start of the pandemic, right? Knowing what you know now,
Yeah.
how do you imagine your role would have changed?
I would be doing in a little bit ways what I'm doing right now, right? In the sense that I need to start thinking about uh, experiences that and employees experiences that are not just about making sure that you can change your address and you're able to, as a manager, you're able to promote your employee, or as your onboarding, that we give you a great onboarding, but all of this available digitally now. That those physical touch points are gone. So how do I make sure that those physical touch points are transformed digitally? And as I'm doing that, I'm also considering the employee well-being. That I'm not forgetting that there at the end of the human experience, there is a human, and that I need to treat them like, and I want to make sure that, if I'm going to tell the employee that, you have a meeting at 10 o'clock, I'm also going to tell the employee that it's 10:50 and you might want to like stop it right now instead of an entire hour. A suggestion to kind of have a 50-minute meeting rather than an hour, and go take a walk, or, or go pet your dog, or get a cup of tea, or whatever you can do during the day, so that you don't feel like, you're glued to your screen all the time. So it's about thinking about experiences in a very different way than I had when I was at Pfizer, because at Pfizer, everybody was coming to work. And, in some cases for experiences, I had kiosks for people who did not have computers. We had manufacturing plants and stuff like that. So now I have to make sure that experiences are mobile. So I need to make sure that they have it in devices that they can access. Obviously, we won't have remote manufacturing, but but wherever wherever the employees are, we need to make sure that the experiences are, and that they don't have to travel to the experiences, that the experiences travel to them, basically.
Yeah, I have to imagine that your experience through the pandemic at Microsoft has really impacted sort of that roadmap you may have come up with at the beginning pre-pandemic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to move on to the next segment. It's our final segment. It's called Asking for a Friend.
Just asking for a friend. Hey.
As a
asking for
female
friend.
leader, what has been the most significant barrier in your career?
It's not just about being a female leader. It's about being a female leader in tech.
Mhm.
Um, and uh, it's jokingly called "It's great to be a female leader in tech" because there are no lines in the bathroom. Because
I've
there are
never
not.
heard that.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
yeah. So, but not, it is not as, joyful as you would think to not have those lines. I would rather
Yeah.
have those lines. Um, I do believe things are changing now. I'm not going to things are changing and we have to make the change. We have to bring about that change to bring not just the females. It's also about all other communities of, marginalized communities. We need to make sure that everyone shows up in the tech
Hmm.
world because everything is going tech. I mean, especially after the pandemic, digital transformation is everywhere. And so we need to kind of close that gap and bring everybody to the table. But since you asked specifically about the female, um, I think it is important, and I'm going to focus on the tech part of it. It is important to encourage the students to go into science and technology, especially the girls, to kind of embrace that. I have found myself in meetings where I'm the only one talking and kind of being talked over. And, my voice is louder just because of that.
Yeah.
You have to kind of be a little bit out there to be heard and so on. So um, I don't want that for our next generation. I want our next generation to be just equally in the room or in the virtual room, wherever they're working anymore, to be able to be heard and followed because and this is happening in a lot of ways, but we have a lot of way to go in terms the long way to go to kind of achieve that from making sure that we don't even have to ask that question.
Hmm.
Our female leaders in tech and a thing, because it's just a normal thing to have female leaders in tech. And I'm hoping I'm doing my little things by encouraging students, not just across US, but across other countries to be kind of focused on the science and technology, to be interested in mathematics, to be interested in engineering, to be interested in coding, and make sure that they can actually move on to that. And I feel like when you keep them engaged with that, most girls love coding. They like because there is that logical thing about how yeah, I think
Hmm.
a female brain works that it adapts to coding very nicely. And I'm not saying the other way that the males don't think logically. So don't get me wrong, but I think and they get very interested. So it takes work, but it even if we do one person at a time, we will be able to make the change for this world.
Yeah. What advice do you give when you speak to women who want to go into tech, or as you said, yeah, maybe marginalized communities who want to go into tech? What advice do you give them?
I tell them I actually talk to them about how what digital or what tech can do in the world. I mean, most people don't understand, how even the fact that their phone works. How does that work? So kind of bringing it down to their everyday lives and how does it change the everyday lives. Kind of talk about that. But more importantly, I talk to them about how easy is it to learn science and technology, how rewarding it would be to be learning how to code, because it's instant gratification. You don't people who are like have, for example, mental barriers about talking to other people, or are normally very reticent in terms of having social contact or stuff like that. They're great at like sitting at a computer and getting coding done. These things are so I tell them all of the advantages that you might have in terms of just having a work that will pay them well, but in also instantly reward them because you will get a program written and it'll work and you'll all feel good about it and so on. And it'll work not just for you, it'll work to serve the world. You might be designing the next Fitbit or something that will go into people being healthy or whatever. I mean, I could go on and on about what technology can do. Yeah.
Can you just, yeah, can you take a quick step back when I mentioned what advice would you give them? What's some advice that's maybe been given to you or something that's really helped put you on the path that you are in your very successful career that you would like to share?
Um, be uncomfortable. Be comfortable in being uncomfortable was something that was given to me. It's like, and I have always followed that. It's like, oh, I'm slightly uncomfortable. I mean, the public speaking, geek and love to be on my own a lot, but But this whole idea of speaking and speaking up and speaking outside, all of that comes to me from being a little bit slightly uncomfortable to do that. And over a period of time, kind of learn to be. And then there is the next uncomfortable thing that you want to do. And there is it's like riding a roller coaster, nobody's comfortable riding a roller coaster.
Mhm.
You put through that. So then, that's how I see, that's an advice that was given to me. And I've always thought that's a great advice to have for anybody.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's becoming something that's more talked about, that being uncomfortable. For me, I've just been hearing it over the past maybe 5 years. And that's made a huge impact on how I interact with, employees with different departments, what decisions I make, even in my personal life.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to get one of those like pretty signs that you see that have cursive that has that just that on it and put it up in my office. It's
Be
just a good
comfortable
reminder.
in being uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes,
And
exactly.
have a
Exactly.
t-shirt made,
Do a whole branding pens, like branding pens. Um, Last question. We may have already touched on this, but I want to see, what do you think is the next big shift in technology related to the employee experience that you see coming out of the virtual work environment?
I think I spoke about this a lot earlier as well. Um, if you want talent is a problem today, and it's going to be a problem tomorrow. You have to keep your talent engaged and upskilled. I mean, it's going to be harder to keep going and, oh, you want another skill, you want to go get another person. So having a very good understanding of what the company's needs are, through data. I know I'm kind of going back to that. So understanding what your needs are, understanding where your employees are to be, and making sure that they are kept engaged and enriched through skilling and upskilling and so on is going to be, and how you do that is going to be your next, basically, your challenge. But not just about the company and the employees. It is also going to be about the well-being of the employees. As people start working remotely more and more, that community and water cooler conversations and all of that is not going to be there anymore. So now you're going to want to bring that community back online. And how do you do that? What kind of steps you will take to make sure employees are well by themselves and communities are well in teams, and a company as well as a larger community is something that you need to focus on.
Great. Well, I'm going to take three big things away from this personally: data, being uncomfortable, and thinking about the human experience over the employee experience. So, Rajama, this has been so much fun and so informational for me. But before I let you go, please let our listeners know where they can find you, and if there's anything else you would like for them to hear from you.
They can always find me on LinkedIn, Rajamma Krishnamurthy on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with everybody. And you know, from a, I would say, if there are women and girls listening, any age, any quarter, just remember that science and technology could take you far. So get into it. It's a great place to be. And nothing else. Just be happy in what you do.
Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. And it was wonderful talking to you, Amanda. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.